The first guest on this week's show is quite comfortable here in the Fighting Irish Media headquarters because he served an internship here this summer. Jaylon Smith is a junior from Fort Wayne, majoring in film, television, and theater off the field and tackling people on the field. The linebacker earned second-team All-America honors following his sophomore season last fall and is a first-team preseason All-America this season. Jaylon is on the watch list for 5 major individual defensive awards and was named the Lot Impact National Player of the Week for his performance against Virginia. But his biggest accomplishment this season may be that he leads the Irish in tackles with 23, one more than his fellow captain and linebacker Joe Schmidt. I'm guessing that little tidbit might come up as Jaylon Smith sits down to chat with Jack and Joe.
And thanks for being with us. It's a thrill to have you. How tough is it to carry Joe all during the season like this?
No. Jay, I'm coming for you. You have 23 tackles. I'm on my way. I need one more tackle for loss, and we're here.
Hey, you can have it. As long as we win, that's all.
Exactly.
All right, we'll get to the football, but first the bowling. The Showtime show gave us some insights into that passion of yours, your own balls that have names, your own shoes, the whole deal. When did that start, and how often do you get to do that? Is that a release for you?
Yeah, well, I've been bowling all my life. So, and, being in Indiana, there's not a lot of sun and things like that year-round, so there's not a
nice recruiting pitch.
There's not an ocean.
Good job.
There's not an ocean and then things like that you can visit, so we play basketball and we bowl, and that's something that I've taken all my life. I've just never had the opportunity to go out and get my my own utensils and things like that. So it's been really fun.
Any perfect games in your history?
No, 255 is my highest right now. So 8 strikes in a row. So it's
well, we got to get a game up between you and Jerome Bettis. He's a serious bowler too.
Yeah.
We'll be doing that as a feature for Fighting Irish Media somewhere in the future.
Those balls of yours, they have unique names as I remember. I think one was the Dark Knight, which is absurd in and of itself. But how did you come up with the names for your the different bowling balls you have?
Well, just first of all, the look of it has like that ebony, just dark and vicious type look. And it was my first bowling ball, actually. I got it a year ago. And it's I'm very comfortable with it, so it's definitely my go-to. And then I have 2 other balls. One of them is called Colombiana, which is one of my favorite movies, by the way. Okay. But the key thing with all of my bowling balls is they have the color orange in them, and that's my favorite color. I think it's really unique, so it's real fun. You just got to have fun with it.
You mentioned, notwithstanding your unflattering portrayal of Indiana's weather, you referred to your Indiana home here. Pretty cool that 3 of the 5 captains are from the state of Indiana. It says something about not only the quality of young men coming out of the state, but the quality of football play and high school football in Indiana these days, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's definitely overlooked, the amount of talent and players that we bring, on the football side, of the on things, being from Indiana, we're looked as a basketball state, and guys, on the team, they joke about it, like Joe from Orange County and guys from Florida and things like that, but it's the reason why they came to Indiana.
Yeah, and I should give those guys credit by name. Sheldon Day, of course, is one of the captains, and Nick Martin is one of the captains, both Indianapolis guys.
So you mentioned Colombiana as one of your favorite movies, which I don't think the majority of people would say Colombiana is one of their favorites, which is quite okay, by the way. But you're an FTT major. Mm-hmm. Maybe talk a little bit about where your passion for FTT and film, television, and theater, for those that don't know, kind of started, and just what you're most interested in the field, and maybe some movies that you are looking forward to see, or the ones you've seen lately that you like.
I mean, just always being around, the camera and dealing with media and things like that. I've grown to become, very well at it, public speaking and things like that. But just the overall, viewing of television is something that's always intrigued me. And, why not learn about, a $1 billion, industry and business. So it's something, like I said, that I'm very comfortable with, but, also want to learn more about. So it's something that I really wanted to take advantage, a while. here at Notre Dame.
So are you more interested in on the on-camera, like maybe doing after your illustrious career in the NFL, doing an on-camera type of thing where you're breaking down games, or do you like the film aspect of part of it? Which part maybe attracts you the most?
I don't want to set any limits. I think that'll be more of a transitional period, after football and things like that. As far as recovering games and things like that. But it comes more natural. But the sky's the limit.
I love that. I love it.
It absolutely is the limit. Year 2 under Coach Van Gorder's defense. You guys are off to a great start. Do you feel more comfortable in it? Does the team feel more comfortable in a deeper understanding of what is a very intricate defense?
Absolutely. Like you said, year 2, guys have more experience under the system. It's my first year with, having the same system for, more than 1 year. So,
right.
Like we said, just having a better understanding of, conceptually and things like that is something that, we're very excited about.
What are the hardest elements of it, coming into a new system and trying to get comfortable in it?
Well, it's an NFL defense. So, the scheme, the amount of inventory that we bring, Joe knows, the inventory we bring, to each game, it really, calls for your attention. And, unlike NFL football players, we have school as well. So just the balance between that is something that we definitely have to hold each other accountable for. And I think we do a good job.
So I've seen your transition, Jay, from when you got here as kind of the young puppy freshman who you played you started every single game and you played a ton of snaps, to now where you are, you're a junior captain, which is incredibly impressive, and you've really transitioned from this position of someone who really wasn't sure, but you were very productive, to a leader on this football team. Can you just talk a little bit about that kind of transition, even from last year to this year? Because I've seen firsthand just the difference in your demeanor and how much more vocal you are. So just talk a little bit about that.
Well, it's definitely a growing process. Your freshman year, there's a lot of high expectations, but not too many, as far as, from the coaches and the staff and things like that. With Danny Spahn going down, I was kind of thrown in the spotlight. But, the main focus was just to do my job. It wasn't about, being out there trying to make plays and things like that. As the season went on, I became more comfortable and understood that, it's football. We've been playing since we were 7 years old and things like that. But, then you go to your sophomore year with a whole new scheme, definitely relying on Joe, for the most part, as far as understanding, the system and things like that. I kind of just did my job and kind of made sure everything was locked and loaded, as far as in the secondary and things like that, but still not having a full understanding of the defense. And then you have injuries, you have Joe go down and you have so many freshmen that have to come in. I think at one point we had 9 freshmen playing or something like that. But it kind of forced me to really lock in and learn. And that's something that helped me tremendously. And I think Joe can definitely see that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And it only builds and helps our chemistry as well. When we got him back, and that's kind of what you see this year is just a more mature player. With the production, obviously staying the same or increasing. Just being very productive and things like that.
Yeah.
But anything that it takes for the victory.
Yeah, without question. Because of the way we schedule, you guys see a wider variety of offenses than any team in the country because we're not locked into a conference with a lot of teams that you see every year sort of playing the same way. These 2 weeks are a great example of that. You go from one of the most high-powered, efficient option teams in the country to one that's pretty pass-happy this week against UMass. What does that demand of you? What's that transition like from week to week?
It demands of just the ultimate focus. You have to be dialed in, when you walk into the Goog. And you have to understand the game plan. And you also have to understand that it's college football. And, every game is hard. There's no let-ups, and it's something that the coaches have, hounded in, to us all week. And, leaders and captains like us, we've made sure that we held people accountable. And it's really just all about getting the job done. And that's something that you get a chance to do here, at a great place like Notre Dame, where, each and every week is a challenge.
Yeah, I was really struck, and it was reflected in some of the talk of the coaches in the Showtime show this week. But Georgia Tech requires such assignment discipline, right? I mean, you can't go off the page at all. Even if you think you can help by doing something else, you just got to stay glued to your assignment, right?
Right. I mean, that's the triple option, and there's going to be, in any game there's going to be, the other team's going to have some runs. But, the key with triple option teams, you have to make sure that you stay poised throughout the whole thing. And that's something that, we all talk about.
So, Jay, I'm going to be honest. I'm a little jealous, and you're probably not going to know what I'm talking about here, but I heard through the grapevine that you recently did an interview with Lou Holtz, and I'm not saying I don't know how that came about and how I missed this opportunity, but I am completely jealous. Can you talk a little bit about?
Hey, you get to talk with me every week.
What's
the deal?
I'm not saying there's a huge difference there, but maybe a slight difference. No, all jokes aside, tell us a little bit about your experience with Lou and how that interview went.
Well, I interned here at Fighting Irish Media, and was presented with some great opportunities. Learning how to log and edit and being in front of the camera and things like that. So and when Lou Holtz came in, I got the opportunity to be on the opposite side of the camera. Not being interviewed, but interviewing him. So it was a blessing. It was an amazing opportunity, and it's something I'll cherish. I'll never forget.
Well, I saw that clip, and you did it as well as you bowl and as well as you play football, and you're just great at everything. Jaylon, thanks so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for coming on, man.
All right, we'll be back in a minute.